Hey guys, what's up and welcome to Zero Reviews Tech. I have two phones here. The first is the Ulefone Power 3, and on the right side there is the Vernee X. Now these two phones are incredibly similar in terms of specifications. They both have the Helio P23 processor and 6GB of RAM, and they both have huge 6000 mAh batteries, except the only difference is that the Vernee X has a bigger battery. It has a 6200 mAh battery, whereas the Ulefone Power 3 has a smaller 6080 mAh battery, which is about 120 mAh smaller, which is really nothing. But it also has a 128GB eMMC as opposed to 64GB on the Ulefone Power 3. So this video is going to compare both phones in all aspects, and at the end I'm going to give you a recommendation on which one you should buy. So let's get started. So let's talk build quality first. Both of these phones are the exact same size. The Ulefone Power 3 and the Vernee X, they're both the same thickness, the same width, the same length, the same everything, and they're both the same weight as well. So I think the body of the phone might be from the same ODM, so there really isn't much difference there. However, where the differences come in are the materials. So the Ulefone Power 3 on this side, it uses a smoother metal, whereas the Vernee X uses a rougher, more matte metal. And I do prefer the Vernee X's matte metal over the Ulefone Power's smooth metal over here. However, the one thing I do prefer on the Ulefone Power 3 is the raised fingerprint sensor as opposed to the indented fingerprint sensor on the Vernee X. It's definitely easier to feel and to reach and to touch it without actually looking at the back of your phone than the Vernee X. But with regards to everything else, they both have USB-C, they both have dual cameras, both the bezels are about the same, so there really isn't much else that differentiates both phones in this respect. But in the end, I do have to give a verdict on which phone wins the build quality challenge, and that would be the Vernee X for me very slightly, because I do like the matte metal back over the Ulefone Power 3's smooth metal back. Alright, let's compare screens on the Vernee X and the Ulefone Power 3, and for reference, this is the Vernee X, and this is the Ulefone Power 3. So as we scroll through the pictures, or let's start with the first one actually, both of these look very, very good. The differences are very, very small in terms of the color reproduction, the clarity, the saturation. Both screens look very, very good. And I can't even really see that big a difference between them using the pictures. Pretty much every picture that we scroll through is going to look more or less the same. There really isn't going to be that big a difference between these photos. However, there is one difference, and that would be the color temperature on the Vernee X as opposed to the Ulefone Power 3. And for that, we actually have to exit these photos and go look at something else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the Play Store on both of these phones. So as you can see, the screen on the right, which is the Ulefone Power 3, is cooler than the one on the left, the Vernee X, where it has a more yellow and a more warmer feel and look to the screen as opposed to the Ulefone Power 3. Now, in my opinion, I do like a cooler screen than a warmer screen, but that is completely personal preference. There really isn't a right answer. So it really depends on which type of screen you like better, a cooler screen or a warmer screen. So everything I've talked about regarding the display has been too close to call between the Vernee X and the Ulefone Power 3. And the only difference right now that I've talked about so far would be the color temperature of the screen, and that is personal preference. So you can't really call a winner. However, there is one last thing that will determine a clear winner in the display challenge, and that will be the Gorilla Glass on the Ulefone Power 3, and there is no Gorilla Glass on the Vernee X. So in that case, the Ulefone Power 3 clearly wins the display challenge here. So next is going to be the audio. I'm going to let you hear two of the same clips from both of these phones, and you'll be able to determine which one you like better. So I'm going to play Try Not to Laugh Star Wars compilation, so it's something interesting. So give me a moment while I switch my mic. All right, now that you've heard both, honestly, the difference between both speakers is very, very hard to tell, especially when the volume enhancer is off for both of them. In terms of clarity, I do like the Vernee X better than the Ulefone Power 3. However, the Ulefone Power 3 is a little bit louder than the Vernee X, and it is enough for me to call the Ulefone Power 3 the slight winner of the audio challenge, and the Vernee X the slight loser. And the Ulefone Power 3 won by a very, very small margin here. All right, let's talk about battery life next. Honestly, even if I do call a winner between both of these are going to get amazing battery life. It really doesn't matter. So the Vernee X will have better battery life than the Ulefone Power 3, but honestly, the Ulefone Power 3 still has amazing battery life. So the official winner of the battery challenge is the Vernee X, but both of these phones are winners. All right, let's talk about the software and performance now between both phones. When you're swiping between home screens, I like the Vernee X better than the Ulefone Power 3. When you're swiping down to go to the settings, again, I like the Vernee X better than Ulefone Power 3. However, when you're accessing the app drawer, I like the Ulefone Power 3 a lot better than the Vernee X. And when you're launching apps, both of these are actually pretty similar as well. There really isn't a clear winner between the software of both phones. So if I launch Play Store both at once, they're almost the same, and it varies between each phone as well. Oops. So as you can see in that one, the Vernee X launched faster. And in this one, the Vernee X launched faster as well. And in this one, Google Play Newsstand launched faster. So yeah, it's very different based on which phone you're using, which app launches faster, but they're both very close. However, the Vernee X does have one massive, massive advantage over the Ulefone Power 3, and that would be the storage. On the Vernee X, you have 128 gigabytes of storage, but on the Ulefone Power 3, you only have 64 gigs of storage. So the Vernee X here definitely has a huge leg up. And now if we're going to compare gaming, I'm going to show you two gaming videos, but they're pretty much the exact same. Finally, let's talk about the fingerprint sensor, and both of these are pretty good. It's actually really hard to tap them both at the exact same time. So as you can see, the Vernee X is slightly faster than the Ulefone Power 3. So for the software performance and fingerprint sensor, I do declare the Vernee X the winner over the Ulefone Power 3 because of two reasons. The Vernee X has 128 gigabytes of storage and the fingerprint sensor is slightly faster. However, do note that with those pros comes the con of a very slow swipe up to access the app drawer. I do hope that Vernee fixes that in the future, but in the meantime, while they don't fix that, that is one thing you'll have to live with. Let's also talk quickly about connectivity. I did find both of them were about the same in terms of 4G speeds, Wi-Fi speeds, as well as Bluetooth. But the GPS on the Vernee X is actually a tiny bit better than the GPS on the Ulefone Power 3. So the Vernee X is a slight winner over the Ulefone Power 3 here. And let's talk about the cameras between both these phones. They are very similar. However, at this current point in time, the Ulefone Power 3 has had an update to the camera app, and thus the Ulefone Power 3 can take more consistent photos than the Vernee X. However, the Vernee X can take better photos than the Ulefone Power 3, but just not as consistently. And there's two huge issues with the Vernee X right now that are not fixed. The first will be very, very slow autofocus, up to 5 seconds of autofocus, making me miss many, many pictures. And the second would be out of sync video and audio on the front camera. And these two options have to be fixed at once, because at this moment, the Ulefone Power 3 is the winner of the camera challenge because it is more consistent than the Vernee X. Okay, so which phone do I think is better? Well, it's a very, very close race, but as I said in my Vernee X review, I'm going to kind of rehash what I said there. Basically, if you cannot wait and you need to buy a phone right now, get the Ulefone Power 3. Because right now, the camera is fixed and it's a very, very good phone. And the Ulefone Power 3 takes more consistent photos than the Vernee X because the camera software on this is more finished than the Vernee X. However, if you are able to wait for Vernee to fix the software, so once they fix the camera software, get the Vernee X instead. So very simple. If you cannot wait, get the Ulefone Power 3. If you are able to wait, get the Vernee X. So I want to know your opinions on this comparison between the Vernee X and the Ulefone Power 3. Which one do you prefer? Be sure to hit like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.